Hi everyone, Jesse here with Canine Perspective, and welcome to my first installment of my What to Do When You're Charged by an Off-Leash Dog or When You're Attacked by an Off-Leash Dog series. A few days ago we had an incident with an off-leash dog in front of our facility, and I then in response released a video of 7 clips from our training sessions of us being approached by off-leash dogs. In some cases I had to address the dog, in others I just addressed the owner, and we even had a moment where we had an unstable woman try to harass one of my client's sons, and I addressed it in a very direct, and there was like a number of different approaches, and I thought, how could I provide more insight to people who have been attacked or have been charged by an off-leash dog. And I came across a channel called Active Self-Protection, where this gentleman reviews badge cams and camera footage of either cops or concealed carry weapon holders, and like let's say a burglar tries to rob a store and the cashier is armed with a gun, like how they handled the situation, how they could have handled it better, things that they did correct, and things like that. And I was like, hey, this is a really good information, and it was great because it's a lot of stuff that we do as well when we were approached by an off-leash dog, but there are some differences also. So I thought, why not do the same thing but with dogs and off-leash dog attacks, and just providing insights into dog behavior and how do we handle these things. So we're starting off this first installment with a story that came out of Detroit. It was a brown and white pit bull that attacked the postman. The video is about 6 minutes long, and the video that I'm using, I'm gonna talk about it and provide information as it's happening. It is fairly graphic, so if you have a sensitive stomach or anything like that, or you may not want to watch this video. However, there is going to be some really good information in terms of what works and what doesn't work, what they could have done, and what could have been done better. Just much like that active protection channel. I hope that you're able to pull some information from it, and that it helps you in the future should you ever need it. I hope to God that you don't ever need it, but hey, it's good to have the information and not need it to need it and not have it, is what I always say. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into the video. Okay, so this is the start of the video where the gentleman drives up, and you see the postman on the ground with the pit or the dog latched onto his foot, and you can see another gentleman like kind of whacking and patting at him and grabbing his scruff here, and nothing's working, right? And the postman tells him, go get my bag, and they try different approaches here. I just want to point out, when the nephew, like you look at him, like he's not very concerned, like he doesn't understand the severity of the situation right now. Like it kind of looked like he was like laughing for a quick second. I'm not saying that he was, but here you see him kind of waving his hand, and to me it looks like he was trying to like wave a treat in front of him to see if that would disengage the dog. The dog is in a full state of aggression, and then you hear these very loud, high-pitched, annoying sounds. And then you also hear the car horn. So they're trying to use noise to get the dog to disengage, okay? So food nor noise at this time are not going to help. You're going to have to go to physicality. So then we see this brave woman come out. She's got a broomstick, and she's like whacking the dog, right? If you look at the intensity of the dog, and you look at the intensity of which the woman is approaching or trying to disengage the dog, they're not equal. You have to either match the intensity or be above the intensity in order to override the dog's mental state of aggression, okay? So then the gentleman in the car comes out and slams a large trash can on top of the dog and is able to disengage the dog briefly, but then the dog re-engages to the target and grabs his arm, okay? So he did get him to disengage from the target, but not to disengage mentally, and so the dog attacks again, okay? So now we've just made the problem worse, because now there may be potentially 2 bite sites on this gentleman. So here he brought, it looks like a scraper or some kind of spatula of some sort, and now he's kicking the dog. In the video they try to treat a loud noise, a broom, a trash can, a scraper. Now he's back with the wheel lock, the red wheel locks, which is better because it's a hard metal thing. And then at some point he comes out with the hammer, okay? So they're using a ton of physicality here. But again, if you look at the intensity of which they're approaching the dog with the physicality, it's not enough to disengage the dog. And what we would want to do here, if we're using physicality to disengage, if that's all we have, is I would have actually grabbed the dog's hind legs and pulled up. A lot of times this throws the dog off, and they'll kind of go like what, which allows you to then swing them out. And if you have to hold on to the hind legs, because then they can't engage with you, and you can the person get the safety, and then you have the dog by the hind legs. And as long as you hold the hind legs, you're perfectly fine. Someone can call animal control, someone can call the cops, and they come and they can take care of it. So that's one approach. Or if you grab the hind legs and the dog is not disengaging, you could then start administering kicks in the stomach to knock the wind out the dog to try to get the dog to disengage. We do not want to try to pull the dog away while it's actively engaged with a bite. Okay, this is going to cause more damage than it is going to do good. You know, the dog's bite is going to rip muscle as you pull them away, or they're going to release and bite again, and then you're going to tear up or cause even more damage, or cause another bite wound. Okay, so now the nephew has come out with a belt. Okay, and this is actually the best approach in this particular case, because during all that physicality, now he's got the hammer. During all that physicality, the dog never once went after one of the protectors or defenders of the postman. So the dog was too far gone on taking out the target that they could have looped the leash under the throat, fed it through the buckle, and choked the dog out way sooner. Okay, and this is exactly what the nephew does now. It's just about 3 to 4 minutes now into the video. So he gets the dog to choke out, and then you see him here. He steps aside. Now he doesn't know what to do. He's trying to get the dog out, but then the dog engages with the nephew. Okay, and there's two reasons this may have been. He engages with the nephew because he's still in a state of overstimulation and aggression, and he's redirecting it towards the nephew because he's the closest thing, or because the nephew is now cutting off airflow, the dog is panicking and now going after the nephew as a redirect. So here you see the dog kind of wavering and kind of going back and forth. I know it sucks. I know the dog collapses because we've cut off airflow. The dog does not choke out to death, just so you know, but they disengage the dog, right? So this here would have disengaged the dog much more quickly, much more safely, with way less physicality, okay? But now, the dog, because they let the dog go, the dog is regained its breath, its composure. Now it's going after the old lady because now it's got a target still stuck in that territorial mode, okay? So I'm going to stop the video here, and we're going to talk about why did all this happen. So I read an article, and the article says that the nephew was coming over to the owner's house and leaving, and when the nephew was leaving, the dog snuck out past him. Okay, this is a very common thing that happens. So he snuck out past them, and I'm assuming the postal worker was across the street or nearby. The dog saw him and was in a state of territorial mindset. Okay, now in the article, the owner says that the dog has never displayed any kind of aggression before.
She says she's never had any issues with Boss Hogg in the past, and that she bought him from a breeder in 2012.
So this afternoon, people would say, like, well, why would this happen, right? They might think maybe the dog was rabid or had rabies or something like that. It happened because when the dog escaped the front of the house or the front door, and it was in a very overstimulated state of arousal and territorial mindset, and he saw the postman, his brain just goes into go. Okay, the brain goes into territorial mindset, take out the threat. Okay, or maybe he saw the postman saw him, and he got scared and tried to run, and then the run triggered prey drive, and the dog said, "I gotcha," and then chased him down, and then the video takes on from there. So I've seen this happen. I've heard of this happening plenty of times with clients and clients' dogs. Okay, so to give you an example. Had a client's dog, played with the neighbor's dog all the time, best friends, always played. But one day the neighbor's dog escaped their yard and wandered into the client's yard, okay? They opened the front door to let their dog out, not knowing that their neighbor's dog was in the yard, and the dog just took off and went around the house and started attacking the neighbor's dog on their territory. And so the client was like, why did this happen? And I was like, because when the dog came out, it came out in a state of arousal or overstimulation, and territorial mindset kicks in because it heard, smelled, or sensed something in the yard, and the dog goes into, I need to protect my territory, no matter who it is. Okay, dogs don't kind of distinguish like humans do. Okay, so if your dog has that in them, that will come out when the prerequisites, so to speak, are met. So the dog took off out the front door, ran around the house where it knew the dog was, and attacked the dog, okay? So I've also had other clients, again, very similar. They open the door, the dog escapes, runs out, and attacks the first thing they see. Okay, so when they come out, they're just in that territorial mindset. They're wanting to like remove threat, to protect the territory, and then it leads to an attack very much like this. Okay, so when it comes to preventing something like this is why we put thresholds and not allowing the dog to run out the front door without permission. Because when you put that layer or that barrier there of precaution, and the dog goes, okay, I can't run out, it doesn't allow them to flip or switch into that territorial mindset, because you have to give permission for the brain to come out. So should they do so, they should be in a much more passive state. Of course, there are exceptions. There's no 100% guarantee to any of this stuff, because we're dealing with animals and animal behavior. So, in this video, taking the dog's intensity and how everybody was approaching it, the safest thing would have been to choke the dog out from the get-go, because the dog wasn't going to redirect to anybody, okay, until finally the dog is disengaged. And yes, we may see something there, because you've disengaged the dog from the first target, and since you're attached to the dog, you may become the next target. What the nephew could have done is, or what he did incorrectly, was he had too much slack in the belt. So you want to think, if I have 3 foot of slack out right here, the dog has 3 foot of slack to move this way. So I would have been closer to where the leash was, the belt was wrapped around, to where I'm out of bite range. So if the dog goes up and I go up with them and the dog's trying to bite, they can't reach me. And because I only have about 1 foot of slack here, if the dog tries to come at me, they're not going to reach me. So we call it the up and away. So I wanted to provide you guys with a visual. So I took a clip from Cesar Millan. He's definitely the man if you're wanting to learn how to good dog handling skills. But here you can see how he has the leash short. He has maybe 1 foot of slack, maybe a little bit more than 1 foot of slack from his hand to the dog's head. He has the leash fitted like a slip leash, very high up on the head, on the neck, just below the jawline. This gives him the most control. So if the dog has a moment, which it does, he's able to immediately, as soon as his hand moves, he's going to get immediate tension on the dog's head, which is going to move him away from him. And it allows us to do the up and away and really reduce the risk of being bitten. And the clip is going to start just shortly. Here goes the bite, and you can see right away Cesar goes up and away, and then he starts to spiral the dog out using very little pressure, and you're going to start to see the dog panic right here. This is all the panic state. This is what we saw with the brown pit bull and the nephew, with the spiraling around and stuff, because the airflow was being cut off. The dog couldn't breathe, so the dog starts to panic. It's normal. No, we don't like that stuff, but hey, if the dog's attacking somebody, like, you have to do what you do to save their life. But that's a nice visual, an example of what it looks like to have really good control. So the nephew was correct when you saw him go like this. There was just too much slack here, and then he was running around in a panic that he slipped and fell. So if he had it closer, his arm probably would have been down here, and I can actually pick the dog up, put it on his hind legs, which then also removes a lot of its jumping power, because the dog's going to push itself up using those front legs like that, okay? It can push itself up with the hind legs as well, but there's not going to be as much power, okay? And I would have choked the dog out into unconsciousness, and then had everybody go to safety, put the dog away, call the police, or what have you. So there was a couple approaches that could have been done here that would have resulted in less bite wounds on the postman. Again, they could have either pulled the hind legs out, maybe they throw the dog off, like the dog's like, what's going on? You can swing the dog out, call the police, and just hold the dog like that, okay? They might be fighting and stuff, but dogs have no real hind leg power, okay? So as long as you got a good grip, you're fine. If that didn't work, they could have introduced kicks to the stomach as they're holding the dog's hind legs. And my preferred approach would have been just take something, a leash, a wire, a long wire, a belt, like an extension cord, whatever you have, something long enough that you can wrap around and create, a chokehold on the dog, and have it short, just ready for that redirect when that dog disengages, okay? So this is what I would do, or in a case like this, if I ever came across it, the first thing I do is run towards the dog, get those hind legs if the dog doesn't disengage. And again, if I grab the legs and the dog is too far gone and not redirecting when I touch his hind legs, very, very good probability very high probability that the dog's not going to redirect if I try to throw something underneath the throat to try to choke them out, okay? So that's a quick way if you're not 100% sure about how do I go about helping this person or this dog without putting myself in danger of being bitten. And, it's understandable. Hind leg is the safest way. The dog cannot reach you. They're too long. They can't turn around and bite. They won't reach you that way. But you have to keep that hold until help can get there. Otherwise, I would just go with the choke out method. Very unfortunate. So I'm going to include the link to the article that explains a little bit of what happened here. I'll also include a clip of the news where the lady says the dog, wasn't ever aggressive, So this wasn't a rabid dog or a dog with rabies. This was a dog that got out in a territorial mindset and targeted the first thing it saw. So I hope this video helped provide you with some information. I will be doing more analyzing or more analyzing of other videos to help educate people on what to do when they come across a dog fight. I'm Jesse with Canine Perspective. Thank you for watching.